Rich, how are you doing today?
I am doing well, Paula. How about you?
Wonderful. I am having the time of my life. What a great moment to sit here and talk with you. Uh, One of the things that happens a lot in my job is helping people deal with homes that they're purchasing from family members and things like that. From our conversations previously, what main thing should families be thinking about when there's a house to sell from another family member and they either have to sell it, keep it, transfer it to someone else? You know, what should be their main focus? Because it's very emotional.
Definitely. We typically don't make um, great decisions when emotions get in the way. And so this is it's a difficult topic to handle without emotions. But the things that families need to consider, I mean, the overall things weighing in on it is the financial impact, emotional attachment, and practicality. So is this a property that someone could realistically maintain? Does keeping it long term actually make sense? What are the tax or inheritance implications? And both of these are financial and lifestyle type decisions. And ultimately, which you'll probably hear me go back to multiple times during our discussion, having a plan is the number one weapon against when these things happen. So, and to start earlier than sooner than you think, but I don't want to go jumping ahead like that. That's all I'll say about that.
Jump ahead all you want. It's fine. We're here to learn more about your realtor expertise when it comes to clients who may be at the end of their life, which is a hard, heavy topic to talk about. It's never fun and it creates more emotion than anything. And that's why I wanted to have you here today. So, with me is Rich Neble, and he is with the Kerr Living team, who is part of the Real Broker of Sewell, New Jersey. And I actually met Rich when he was buying his home. I helped him out and he was a nurse. And one of your main focuses I absolutely love is to help families when their loved one is in the end of life stage of life, right? And a lot of times that's very heavy, a lot of emotions, a lot of decisions have to be made during that period. And from my experience on the mortgage end of it, it always seems like the house is the hardest thing to figure out, what to do because, they're pulled in multiple different directions. So today, with our conversation, I hope that you'll be able to help people come away with a clearer idea of how important it is to have a plan, how important it is to think about these things with a logical head sometimes rather than emotional, which is why I'm glad you touched upon that in that first question. But let's go into what made you pick this niche of a clientele.
Listen, I'm 44 years old, and this isn't my first career, obviously. And if I look back at all of the things that I've done, mainly the things that I've enjoyed, because there's been some jobs that were solely to pay the bills. I spent the last 11 or 12 years as an ER nurse, and that was a significant portion of my life. There were a lot of parts of it that I enjoyed. There were a lot of parts of it that I didn't enjoy. I spent a lot of time in sales prior to that. So trying to find a way to kind of marry the two. I've always kind of had a passion for real estate in general. My background as an ER nurse is what shaped this. I've seen families at some of the most difficult moments of their lives. And the one thing that consistently added stress was the lack of a plan, especially when a home was involved. Real estate becomes more than just a transaction in those moments. What's part of the emotional and financial stability of a family. So I realized I could step in and help bring some clarity to something that often feels overwhelming. I have to stay calm and function as a nurse in those moments. So when people are coming to Me with family members that are unfortunately maybe on their way out and they can't think rationally or logically or don't know what to do, then that's, I got to do my job. Like I need to guide, and I like doing that. I've always been in like assistance type fields, I would like to believe. So,
Mhm.
um, so that's that.
I got into it. I love it. And I think there's a lot that's needed in that because again, we talk about the heaviness of the situation and you know, it's hard. It's hard to think about those things, and especially when you're thinking about the house, it's like sometimes the last thing you want to think about. But now we keep mentioning the plan and how important it is. Let's talk about something positive. Let's talk about a situation or scenario that you've seen where it went smoothly. There was a plan in place. And talk about seeing how the family reacted and what having a plan gave them.
So, well, I'm trying to think of a time in which, sorry, my lovely four-legged friend is making her presence
As they do, I told you. So
aware.
let me ask you, do you find that many people actually don't have a plan when it comes to this stuff? And it's
Yeah,
makes it difficult.
that more often than not, you run into scenarios where either if there's no plan at all, and which is surprising because, like, some of these people, like, it's, they're sick for a while, or, you kind of know that nobody's going to live
It's
forever.
not a
And
surprise, right?
right, exactly right. It wasn't like 30-year-old who got into a car crash. Like, this is things that need to be discussed, but in the same respect, like I feel that angle wholeheartedly because again, flashing back to ER stuff, somebody's family member came in an emergent situation. Like I know what to do. Let something happen to like my kid, and I'm running
Mhm.
around like an insane person with I couldn't add up 2 plus 3 at that in that moment. So like I get it. Like when it involves you personally, sometimes it's tough to make sense of everything, but you know, I would, you see a lot of either just completely unprepared families or families with old plans in place, dated wills and things that haven't been maybe updated in 10 years, 15 years. And the worst is when you start to see family members argue over who's getting what's happening with this. And it sucks because it's kind of tarnishing the person who's passing's,
Right.
life, legacy. And it can definitely bring out some of the ugliest scenarios imaginable when you start involving money and houses and stuff like that. So, but ultimately, as long as there's like, and this is usually what happens, there's kind of a go to, whether it
Mhm.
be a POA or executor,
Yeah.
yeah, whatever the case may be, in how they're handling it. As long as you've got somebody who, there's always that one sister or the one brother who was always able to, hold their composure, that typically helps the situations go much smoother.
Oh, absolutely. Have that one contact person.
Right.
Agreed. Agreed. So So walk me through a family, their loved one passed away, where they're going to. Walk us through what your initial consultation might look like. What questions do they need to be prepared for you to properly give them an idea of what they should do? Because I know on my end, on the lender end, I see it all the time where my clients are buying houses that are owned by estates. And it always seems to be very hard to communicate. It's hard to make decisions, and there's usually like 20 people. What do you do on your end when you're consulting?
So where do we start? I
Ha,
would
start
say
at the beginning. So someone calls you up and say, "Hey, Rich, I hear you're the guy. You're the guy that, guide us through. Here's what's happening with mom's house. Here's what's happening with mom. What do we do?"
first thing I would recommend is that we sit down and have a discussion and with the people who are going to be involved in the decision making process, all present. So there's no he said, she said, there's no, well, wait, I didn't know that was like, so getting the decision makers together in the room. And then that's kind of where we go down the road of do they have a plan or do we not have a plan? and families with clear instructions and authority in place, allowing for a smooth, low stress process, this is going to go well. Without one, like we discussed, there can be some confusion over the decision making, disagreements between heirs, properties sitting vacant, and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
if they don't have a plan, the first thing I'm usually going to recommend is getting a state attorney involved to kind of understand ownership and authority. We're going to have an entire family conversation to create alignment so everybody knows what's going on now, what's going on next, and what's going to happen after that. Usually at that point, that's when once we understand the dynamics of who's doing what, we can go into what do we do about the property? Are we keeping it? Are we, willing it? Who's it going to? Is it going to be a joint venture? Are there multiple heirs involved? Once that picture clears and we've got a clear decision on that, then it's my job to figure out what needs to, like, if we're selling it, for instance, the next question usually is, well, like, do we have to, because sometimes, a lot of times, if they're older clients, they probably don't have a remodeled kitchen or the nicest up-to-date bathrooms.
Right.
There might be carpets from 1983 that were in my last house that I bought, and wallpaper
Hmm.
from basement to attic. uh
Nice.
and and listen, all this stuff is perfectly fine and dandy. The question becomes, like, what do you want to get out of this? Because you can put a whole lot of money into it and, put it on the market near the top end of the spectrum, and let's get the most money possible for it. But not a lot of times do these people have, dumpsters full of cash to put
Right.
into, all the repairs, especially that, like, an older house might need. Okay. An older house might need to get it up to the, upper echelon of the market. So there's the complete opposite end of the spectrum, which is, let's just go as is. Investor alert. Make it a project for someone else, and that's perfectly fine too. Because at the end of the
Hmm.
day, you did 1/10 of the amount of grunt work, and you make that someone else's problem.
Yeah.
You don't make as much money from it, but you also relieve a lot of stress too, and you don't have to put as much cash out. So those are kind of the play by play of what we would typically do.
What you would talk about. That's interesting. So I imagine dealing with the multiple people in the decision making process, because even if, and correct me if I'm wrong, but even if there's a plan, right? And even if there's an executor or executrix involved, if when there's multiple heirs and you're trying to sell it, there's still people in that decision making, right?
Yeah.
How do you navigate, or what's your best tip on navigating the multiple personalities? And I don't mean, within one person, although that can happen, but the
Well,
multiple
we got those too.
personalities,
I
right?
deal with plenty of that
With
in the ER.
with siblings and loved ones and
Right.
spouses. How do you navigate that?
So honestly, that's probably one of my favorite parts of the job. It's because you're right. Like, you've got type A's, you've got type B's, you've got,
Mhm.
all the other different classifications of, and like,
You got Uncle Joey who's saying, "Oh, you should sell it, and this is what you can get for you for it." And then you have cousin Patty who's like, "No, we should keep it in the family because this is where we had Thanksgiving dinners for 30 years."
right.
But no one bothered to fix anything
So
for grandmom. Right.
an Irish Italian family,
Sure, why
Uncle
not? I don't
Joey
know. I
and
had to
Aunt
keep it,
Patty, cousin Frankie.
right.
So you, I mean, again, like, part of my role is to know what type of person and personality I have in front of me at
Mhm.
various stages of the game, and know how to communicate effectively with them. Like, that's part of, I don't want to say sales, because, like, I'm not selling them anything, but, like, that's part of just, interacting effectively with humans. I had
Mhm.
to do it in the ER. You've got the tough guy patient who refuses to do anything, and everybody's giving toughness back to him, and it's getting them absolutely nowhere. Sometimes these people just want to be heard, and sometimes the request is so stupid, like they just want a turkey and cheese sandwich, And then they'll
Right.
let you get all the blood work you want. They'll let you do all the CAT scans you want, but nobody asked them. So as far as dealing with the different personalities, like the Aunt Patties, who that's where baby Joey took his first steps. And you obviously take a softer approach with Aunt Patty and maybe something along the lines of when it all comes down to it. And I don't know, we didn't really give a name to the actual family member here. We'll
No, we
call it,
did. Make it
he'll be
up.
Joe.
Joe, there you go.
Would he have wanted the whole family to be in arms over what's going to happen to the house? Have you quote unquote memorialize where little baby Joey took his first steps and have absolutely nothing done to the property and just keep it, preserved in time forever? Or
Mhm.
like, do you think perhaps that he wanted to take care of his family, that he left this house behind because he wanted all of you guys to be able to, benefit from it in some way, shape, or form? And, we can find ways to still honor where little Joey took his first steps, and maybe we like frame a picture of the living room.
Right.
Like there's softer ways to kind of approach that. And then, Uncle Joey who wants to just slap it on the market and get the quickest paycheck, sometimes you got to pump the brakes with Uncle Joey and
Mhm.
let him know that, there is some emotions and other areas involved with this whole thing than just, getting a payday.
Right.
So like identifying, who you got in front of you, how to like approach it is part of like that jigsaw puzzle that like I love.
Yeah.
So it's, it gives you an opportunity to kind of like show that you're really listening to the individual that you're talking to and that you're able to provide a solution for them.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said listen. We as a society tend to not listen even more and more and more. And even when we're writing and typing, and I was just on stage talking about this stuff last week. Like, we don't even read comments or emails fully or text messages fully, and ton of miscommunication comes up.
Especially
And
tone and all that. Like,
oh, it's even worse, right? So when we stop listening to the voice, when we're face to face with people, and we stop reading complete sentences, and we miss a lot. And I love the fact you take that humanistic approach where it is about listening. And your story about the sandwich is so true. Like, sometimes you just want something small. Like Aunt Patty might just want a piece of that carpet.
right.
Or like you said, the picture framed. I find asking why a couple times to someone can be the difference between understanding where you're going and finding that solution, and completely giving them a bad
And
experience.
just discovering what the actual roadblock is or how can we fix this is, it's a huge part of the process.
Yeah, I firmly believe understanding people is such a large part of what we do in real estate that it's very prudent to study these things. Your ER experience has more than prepared yourself for real estate. I can definitely tell you that.
Selling cars.
And selling cars. That's
Yes.
right. That's right. I
A
forgot.
very
I forgot
diverse
that little.
background.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
don't we all?
Gym owner, car seller, and yard nurse. All these things have combined. It's like, the Thundercats to form,
Right.
the ultimate real.
Absolutely. I have time for one more question. And I wanted to ask if there's one thing you would change about the way people approach end of life decisions, what would it be?
Oh, wow. That's a good one. There's
Deep.
one thing I would change. I would say, I guess, I mean, it's something pretty simple is just like plan sooner, you know, because everybody kind of just thinks like we'll figure it out when it happens. I live my life like that. So, I'm not judging, but it's a big, you know, asset that we're talking about. It's the biggest one that, this loved one has.
Mhm.
And to think that, like, you know, God forbid, when they go, it's just going to smooth sailing, like we'll figure it out and then we'll just chop the money up and give some to Uncle Joey and give a little to Patty. It's not that easy, man. Like there's a lot of there's a lot of people involved. There's a lot
Hmm.
of processes involved. There's a lot of, and it takes time. Like, these are all things that if you just start the process and like it's uncomfortable, right? Because like nobody wants to actually admit, number one, like, I mean, I tell my kids all the time, like, you're stuck with me forever because I'm never dying. Like I
Right.
will be around forever. Every time they ask me that question, I'm like, how old do you
Hmm.
think you'll be when you die? And I'm like, never actually. So
Right.
I'm gonna outlive, everyone. But it's uncomfortable to deal with mortality as a whole. And
Right.
but but like the sooner you get that ball rolling, number one, the easier it becomes to actually discuss it. I mean, and some people don't have any problems at all. Like they know they're like, listen, we're not going to be here forever. I'm going to be going at some point, and I want to make sure that everybody has a clear, concise, plan laid out so that when it does, like, there's no fights, there's no, if ands or buts. Like this is what's going to happen. And then you got people who leave everything to their cat. That goes over well. But
I'm sure.
but yeah, like if there's one thing I would change, it would be just like start the process sooner, start the
Mhm.
planning sooner, get the people involved that need to be involved. And like, you know, listen, I don't have to be the one who lists your loved one's house. Like if I can help just get you to certain resources, like that's worth its weight in gold. Because I've come to realize that, like, number one, like I never want to be like that vulture that just circling the dying mouse in the field. Like that's
Right.
not me. Wasn't me in any other previous sales experience I've had. You know, I thoroughly enjoy at the end of the day when everything is done that somebody can be like, dude, thank you for making that process as smooth as it could be. And given my ER experience and now the experience and the contacts that I've made in real estate, I'm able to kind of navigate people into the right direction as far as whether it's hospice or 24-hour home care or, talking to a caseworker about, possible placement into here, there, or whatever. And then even like, a great place, Rothkopf is like they have some of the best attorneys when it comes to. It's not like a shameless plug or anything, but
No,
I'm
you're
just saying,
fine.
like of
Plug
my
away.
yeah, of my dealings, they're amazing. And
Right.
so I mean, I would say again in my usual very long-winded way that getting that thing started sooner than later is the one thing that I would change.
Yeah. Nice. And making it easier for people to do it. Well, again, I still have like a ton of more questions. So this is definitely just the part one of what I'm assuming will be more interviews as well as we get more information. We want to cover more things and help people. I want to thank you for coming on. Again, these are not easy things to talk about. And I know the way you handle your patients, the amount of patience you have in general is amazing. You have a way of making people feel very comfortable and will guide them in the right direction. And that's definitely valuable. So, if someone has a family member that you want to help build a plan and you want Rich's help in figuring out where to go first or who to contact, how would they reach out to you?
I've got my OnlyFans. No, I'm just kidding.
Ah,
What are you talking about glazing? So
it's only like talk someone up, dude. Not
I know. There's
not
other.
what we right.
Listen, you know me by now.
I know, it's fine. This is
This,
definitely staying in the interview.
this one's not going out. So,
You'd be surprised.
I mean, I've got my email is
Mhm,
one way, and that would be Rich at Kerr Living, and that's KERRLIVING.com.
mhm,
My cell phone, which is 856-805-0320. And those would probably be the two easiest ones. I'm also on, Facebook as the adequately named the property RN, and on Instagram,
main ones, right?
Yeah, I got my Airbnb on there too. I'm global. I'm all over the place.
You're all over the place. Well, that is wonderful. Again, I want to thank you for coming on. This has been a lot of fun, very knowledgeable. If you need help and assistance in creating the plan, or if someone has passed away without a plan, Rich is your guy. I promise he'll take great care of you. Once again, this is Paula Hune. Paula loves lending. And remember, knowledge is the real down payment.
I didn't get to thank you, Paula.
Oh, well, you just did.